All right, good evening, everyone. Dr. Randall Gates, board certified chiropractic neurologist, also a chiropractic physician at Gates Brain Health. Tonight, I'm doing my next video in the infection and autoimmune disease series, talking about Epstein-Barr virus and rheumatoid arthritis. EBV is typically a hot topic because EBV is heavily associated in many circles with chronic fatigue syndrome. And we're finding that this virus known as EBV has many associations to other autoimmune diseases, not excluding rheumatoid arthritis. So hopefully tonight, for those of you who are interested in RA, you'll have a little better idea on the associations to EBV. As I mentioned in previous broadcasts, in terms of trying to understand the etiology of Epstein-Barr virus, or causation more accurately, we're trying to figure out what environmental factors are triggering some individuals who seem to have a genetic propensity to develop rheumatoid arthritis. Some of those factors are mouth bacteria, as I mentioned, Porphyromonas gingivalis, other actinomyces type bacteria. Overgrowth of Prevotella species is of particular importance in the intestines. Colonization of the urinary tract with Proteus mirabilis. And we talked about Collinsella as well. All those bacteria are thought to trigger CCP antibodies, which are the specific blood test for rheumatoid arthritis, not the rheumatoid factor, but more specifically the CCP antibodies referred to here on your diagram is ACPA antibodies. Now, with that being said, Porphyromonas gingivalis seems to have some of the most convincing evidence, and the fact that this specific mouth bacteria, the DNA of which has been found in the joints of RA patients, it elicits the exact immune reaction seen with RA, and that RA symptoms do improve with improving periodontitis. Now, relative to Epstein-Barr virus, let's hide this guy, and we're going to bring this in. Oh, let me do this again. This is a great article from Frontiers in Immunology, where they discuss associations between Epstein-Barr and many autoimmune diseases. Just a little overview of Epstein-Barr. It was, I believe, first cultured from Burkitt lymphoma cases in Africa. And it does have associations with certain cancers, but approximately 20% of the population has reactivations of this virus. So a lot of people kind of get tripped up when they start to read about it, thinking that EBV causes all sorts of cancers. It is associated with some cancers, but keep in mind about 1 in 5 people have a reactivation of EBV. By the time we're basically 28 years of age, most of us have been exposed to Epstein-Barr virus. Epstein-Barr virus is a type of human herpes virus. Technically, it's labeled as human herpes virus 4. And if we encounter this EBV when we're children, we'll have no symptoms, or we may have the symptoms of a cold. If you encounter it in adolescence, about half the time an individual will develop infectious mononucleosis. About the other half of the time, they may be asymptomatic. Nonetheless, we've all been exposed to EBV, but it is the reactivation of EBV that seems to be of a real importance in the world of chronic fatigue syndrome and autoimmune diseases like Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And here we're talking about rheumatoid arthritis. So with EBV reactivating, how does that occur? Why does it occur? And what can you do about it? What we're finding is that this EBV tends to like a couple types of cells in our body. It likes epithelial cells. So what is mono referred to as? It's referred to as the kissing disease. So by exchanging saliva, that allows these virions to then invade epithelial cells, and basically it's going to replicate itself or lead to replication of the DNA of this virus. Then we're going to have a bloom of viruses, and then infectious mononucleosis as an example. But when this virus comes into our body, not only does it like epithelial cells, it likes B cells, one of our major factions of our immune system. And so it seems that the viral replication in our epithelial cells, these virions tend to go into B cells, and the virions, which are basically these viral particles from the B cells, like epithelial cells. So it kind of creates this infectious milieu. Now, when the virus reactivates, what seems to happen is that this virus is very, very adept at evading our immune responses. We have these things called MHC alleles, or major histocompatibility complex, which is how we identify ourselves from foreign invaders like EBV. And EBV produces certain proteins that actually help it to evade our major histocompatibility complex proteins, which is really important. So it's thought that that is how, in some individuals, like 1 in 5 individuals, this EBV is allowed to evade our immune system and basically reactivate. It's also thought that some people have genetic weaknesses, potentially in some of their immune function, to where the adeptness of EBV combined with some genetic weaknesses allow for that EBV to reactivate. The reason why our EBV relative to RA appears to be important is that studies have shown that the EBV nuclear antigen, so the Epstein-Barr nuclear antigen type 2, elicits CCP antibodies. So as I mentioned here, oh boy, so let me hide my the stream. So as I mentioned here, you can see that the CCP antibody, the ACPA referred to as here, anti-citrullinated peptide antibody, also known as the cyclic citrullinated peptide antibody, is really of key importance for rheumatoid arthritis. And some research is showing that the Epstein-Barr nuclear antigen type 2 also stimulates that ACPA antibody. So that's how Epstein-Barr is thought to be associated with rheumatoid arthritis. But as you can see in this diagram, which doesn't even include EBV, the underlying mechanisms for triggering the RA disease process appear to be multifactorial and not so simplistic. Okay, so let me hide this and we'll bring this back in. So, okay. So I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, send them to me. I guess we're supposed to put this in here. I am notorious for forgetting that. Please subscribe, stay in the loop with Gates Brain Health. Follow us on Instagram as well. And I look forward to seeing you soon. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.